So much has happened in recent days, in the last week or so, around the world, globally, and this is just one example of what is the biggest story currently, and that's the peace deal and or call it a ceasefire deal arranged, organized, and brought forward by Donald Trump, which may offer some immediate hope to the embattled civilians living in Gaza over the last 12 to 24 months, and also not forgetting the Israelis and particularly Israeli hostages who, within the deal, have been negotiated to be returned, both living and otherwise. And we just hope that the first phase at least can lead to a grace period in this terrible 2 years conflict. And we'll see where it goes. Channel 4 has really done a good job on bringing forward the emotion and visually given a sense of what it might be like to return to a home you haven't seen for how long. And in this case, for this young lady, finding it quite difficult to even find where her house was, not alone where it currently stands, because it doesn't stand, it's completely missing. You'll see anyway, so watch the space. And
before Israel's military, the IDF, had pulled back. Its tanks opened fire to warn the people not to move further along the road until the ceasefire. Crowd control, using shells. On social media, the IDF told them to stay on the coast road and warned that going near Israeli troops would endanger their lives. They're returning to a world of rubble in Gaza City. Fida Haraz wanted to find something, maybe a mattress, she said, as winter is coming. But she couldn't even find the ruins of her home, as there is so much destruction.
I knew it was levelled, but where is it? I can't find it. What do we do with our lives? Where will we live? It was a multi-storey building, but it's all gone.
It's clear that this last offensive by Israel into Gaza City flattened civilian homes on a massive scale. If that is without a military purpose, it amounts to a war crime. The IDF had pulled back to the agreed new line by around midday. It still leaves Israel occupying more than half of the Gaza Strip. Clause 4 of the ceasefire agreement says that the IDF will not return to areas they've withdrawn from as long as Hamas fully implements its side of the bargain. Is that Benjamin Netanyahu's decision? Donald Trump's? It's not clear. Potentially, there are some big problems ahead in the implementation of the Trump 20-point peace plan, which is light on detail. Now, for example, it says that weapons must be placed permanently beyond use through an agreed process of decommissioning. There is no agreed process. Hamas wants to keep some weapons. Israel says they must all go. Armed men from Hamas Internal Security, the unit most feared by Palestinians, have emerged in Gaza City. Hamas wants to show it's not beaten. This is not what Israel wants to see.
We are
encircling Hamas from all directions ahead of the next stages of the plan, in which Hamas will be disarmed and Gaza will be demilitarized. If this is achieved the easy way, all the better, and if not, it will be achieved the hard way.
He said his strategy is bringing the hostages home and called it a tremendous achievement in the war of redemption. Israel has told the UN it can bring in much more humanitarian aid from next week. This was a commercial shipment heading north through Gaza City. But the UN has its own lorries waiting to bring in 172,000 tons of supplies stockpiled just outside Gaza. More than 2 million people need food, clean water, shelter and medical care. And 700,000 children who've had little or no education for 2 years need temporary classrooms. At last there is a chance, as long as the ceasefire holds. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Jerusalem.
More from Jeremy a little later, but as we've been hearing, thousands of Gazans are now returning home. But what will they find when they get there? A warning, Lucy Williamson's report does contain some distressing images.
No one looked at the rubble around them. Even with the buildings gone, their feet knew the way home. The centre of Khan Yunis reopened to residents today after Israel withdrew its forces. A quiet procession that went on and on.
The situation is tragic. There are no houses, there are no streets, there is nothing. There is no life.
In Gaza City too, people were returning. Mohammed found the path to his old front door in Sheikh Radwan, despite the path and the door having gone. Sandwiched in the wreckage, a time capsule from his old life. A jacket, perfectly preserved in a suitcase. A familiar shirt.
The first moment I saw the house was very difficult. It brought back memories of my late father, my late mother, my siblings and my childhood. I honestly wish I never had to experience this moment. It was indescribable, as if I was dreaming.
Mohammed Zaghot walked home from Deir Bala, a 5-hour trek. Hoping to find shelter for his family, including his injured son. His house identified by scraps of clothing, an old teaching certificate. But the building is now so shattered that even a slight tug to free a shirt threatens to bring it down.
When I first got here, I honestly didn't recognize it. If it weren't for the neighbors who told me where it was, I wouldn't know. The area's landmarks have changed, like an earthquake hit it. There is no house left.
2 years of war has shattered Gaza's buildings, but rebuilding lives will be just as hard. The Al-Najjar family tent in the west of Khan Yunis is emptier than it was before. Less than a week before the ceasefire, their 11-year-old son, Marman, was killed collecting firewood in the city centre. His mother, Harish, said she doesn't sleep and cries for him constantly.
This isn't a moment of joy. There is no joy at all. I can't believe it was after Mu'min was killed that Hamas agreed to the deal. Anyone whose heart isn't broken can feel joy today, but no joy can enter a broken heart.
Harish buried her son last week in a grave far from home. Their house in eastern Khan Yunis is still inaccessible, beyond the line Israeli troops have withdrawn to in this first stage of the deal. The war may have stopped, but this family is still in limbo, unable to go home, unable to move on. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, what about this side of the front line? Since those attacks by Hamas a little more than 2 years ago, the families of those Israelis taken hostage have held a very public memorial here in Tel Aviv, in this plaza opposite the main art museum. We've been speaking throughout the day to some of those families about their relief that a ceasefire deal is now in place and about their hopes of being reunited with kidnapped family and friends.
This place of healing and devotion to the missing has sustained so many during a profound time of grief. Hostage Square, as it's become known, has been a meeting place where hope has been kept alive. That one day, all the captives will be freed. For those here, the clock has ticked down, but time has stood still since October the 7th, 2023.
I want it all taken down because it means they're all home.
Naomi Patel Adler survived the Hamas attack, hiding out in a bomb shelter. But some of her friends on the kibbutz were led away. What are your thoughts today? What are you thinking?
Cautiously trying to breathe. I'm cautiously reminding myself that maybe we can go back to being genuinely happy, genuinely calm, that it might actually be over, that these people might be going home to their families, might be coming home and being released to their families, and maybe that I can go back home also.
So this is your father?
Yeah, and that way...
Is that the day he was kidnapped?
Yeah.
Yuli Ben-Ami's father and her mother were captured by Hamas, but later released. There is a measure of survivor's guilt here for those who came through the fire. How have they coped with
So when my mom came back, my father was left behind, and it was very hard for her to recover. And then when my father came back, my mom could breathe more, but she still thought about the person that are still there. Everyone felt guilty in some way. I feel guilty because I survived and there was people that not. So I think everyone has some guilt.
It is a twisted but understandable shame. The promise now is that soon this meeting place will be no more. All the remaining hostages, alive and dead, will be released. The tents and memorials, pictures and sorrow will be gone. Life can begin again.
Jeremy Bowen is live in Jerusalem. Jeremy, the ceasefire, it's underway, but it's still a potentially bumpy road ahead, with the Israelis still having to work out which Palestinian prisoners they want to release.
Well, they've come up with a list, and maybe it's not a final list, we don't quite know, but the top 6 that Hamas wanted out, who are regarded by the Israelis as terrorist kingpins, they are not being let out. Now, one of them is actually not a Hamas guy, Mr. Barghouti, who is seen by a lot of people actually as a potential future president. He's seen by some as the Palestinian Nelson Mandela. Now, letting those people go, not just those 6 who are staying in jail, but also there are lifers and 1,700 people who've been picked up and held without trial. Now, they're all seen as national heroes by the Palestinians, but once all that is done, and it's the price Israel's paying for the hostage release, then there's some really difficult negotiation ahead about how to interpret that 20-point Trump document which started this whole process off. And what are the clear things in it, actually, which is that Trump envisages a so-called board of peace chaired by him as the supreme supervisory body for the first stage anyway in the Gaza Strip, has been rejected this evening by Hamas. They put out a statement with other Palestinian factions saying that the Gaza should be governed by Palestinians and not by foreigners. So already a big bone of contention potentially there, and there are going to be a lot more. This is not going to be an easy process. Donald Trump has said that there's a good chance of peace forever. Sadly, I don't think that's the case.
All right, Jeremy, much more from you throughout the weekend. Many thanks. Jeremy Bowen, our international editor there.
Wow, not an easy thing to experience for anybody on either side of the fence, but hopefully it's a first step to something much better than what the world has been watching for the last 2 years. For now, I want to just have a word from our video sponsors, who are smalldebts.co.uk. If you are owed money and you need some professional help, they will give you a consultation. And if they take your case, they'll make sure whoever owes you the money, be it a rent deposit, you've been scammed on an online purchase, whatever the case might be, they'll take that pressure off your shoulders and have it dealt with. smalldots.co.uk. Their information will be in the description. So let's go.
Struggling to get your security deposit back or dealing with unfair charges? At Small Debts, our tenant advocate service fights to get your money back. No stress, no hassle. Take control today. Visit smalldebts.co.uk and start your case now.
I hope you find that helpful in some way if you find yourself in need of some assistance. For now, I'll end the show by saying thank you for spending some time here. Myself, Owen Uadie, here at CornerSpeak. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so, and please do leave a comment because there's been so much going on in the news, as I stated on the front end of the show, and I'd love to hear your point of view, your perspective, whatever it is, and I strive to respond and answer to your comments. For now, and myself here at CornerSpeak, be good, be safe, and be creative. I'm out.